welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going to try and cut through the noise, right through the headlines, to really understand the structural forces at play across the globe.
And we're doing it for you. We've got a whole stack of sources this week. Everything from AI infrastructure budgets to reports on shipping reroutes.
And our mission, as always, is pretty simple. We're using our analytical lens, the minimal operating system framework, to pull out pure structure.
And pure gradient. It's like we're running a diagnostic on the system's mechanics. We just strip away the drama, the narrative, and we ask really two key questions.
Yeah, what's the first one?
First is, what are the objective functions? What's the causality at work? We are always prioritizing structure over impression.
And the second question, and I think this is so vital, is that we treat emotion as gradient. We don't just dismiss intense feelings, public anger, market fear, that kind of thing, as just noise or bias.
No, not at all. We see those strong emotions as sensors. They're pointing directly to where the greatest pressure is building up in the system.
So when you apply that lens, that dual lens, to this week's data,
right?
What's the global temperature?
I describe it as quiet tension. We're seeing this accelerating divergence between the high-speed systems and the low-speed system.
And that's creating problems.
Big problems. It's leading to a major increase in what we call accumulating compatibility errors. And that's happening across finance, geopolitics, even physical infrastructure.
Okay, that structural divergence feels like the central idea here. But before we dig in, we should probably quickly set up the three layers we use to analyze all this.
Right, the NIOS model. It's basically how we separate what people say from what the system does.
So the N layer, that's the narrative.
That's the narrative, the official statements, the slogans, what the media is saying, the story.
Then you have the I layer, the internal or value layer.
Exactly. The underlying beliefs, the historical fears, the ideologies, basically the intention behind the actions.
But the layer that really matters, the one that actually moves reality.
It's the OS layer, the operational system. This is the pure mechanism. It's the markets, military deployments, algorithms, the actual government channels.
And it's driven by function, not by belief.
Precisely.
Okay, so let's unpack that speed differential you mentioned, because that seems to be the source of all the friction.
Yeah.
You use the term shear. What does that actually look like?
Shear is, it's the friction you get when these layers move at different speeds. The best analogy is probably a continental plate boundary.
Okay.
The OS layer, it might be moving at market speed. We're talking seconds, maybe minutes. But the national infrastructure or public opinion that's moving at the pace of trauma or regulation, we call those year units.
And that gap, that friction between the speeds, that's the shear.
That's where future turbulence is born, yes.
And then there's the other state, which sounds even more dangerous, and it seems to be everywhere this week. You call it calcification or silence?
It is more dangerous. This isn't stability, not at all.
So what is it?
Calcification is when the visible reaction, things like market corrections, public protests, when all of that is suppressed, the tension doesn't just disappear.
It builds up.
It accumulates silently. It hardens the system, like a membrane being stretched tighter and tighter right before it snaps.
So if we pull back and look at the whole picture, where is the pressure most intense right now?
It's overwhelmingly in the OS layer. Our gradient score actually hit an 8.5 out of 10 in that layer this week.
That's really high.
It is. The high-speed elements, AI infrastructure, high-frequency trading, automated logistics, they are expanding in day units. Their timelines are almost instantaneous.
And these super fast decisions are just crashing right into systems that can only move slowly. Physical resources, government planning, public psychology, the year units.
That's the core conflict.
So it's just that the ambition of technology and finance has completely outrun the physical and regulatory capacity of the world.
That's the essential insight. The system is literally splitting apart based on speed.
Let's get into the case studies then. We've got 5 we pulled from the sources, starting with case AI infrastructure and the hard limits of physics.
Right. This is probably the most acute structural crack we're seeing. The speed of investment in AI and data centers is it's unprecedented. In the U.S., Europe, and especially the Middle East.
The UAE, Saudi Arabia.
Exactly. The amount of capital being committed to building these digital plants is staggering.
But the compatibility error isn't economic, it's physical.
It's pure physics. The policy OS driving this exponential AI growth is completely fundamentally non-compatible with the physical limits of regional power grids and water resources. The OS wants more compute.
But reality, governed by physics, has a fixed speed.
Precisely. We're seeing reports that some of these planned data center clusters just in the Gulf region would require more electricity than some entire industrialized nations currently generate.
And it's not just the power, it's the cooling, right? The water.
It's cooling water. The system intends to grow, but the phenomenon of power physics, of distribution networks, of an arid geography, it just says no.
So the structural crack is that the AIOS demand curve is a vertical line, but the power infrastructure supply curve is this slow, gradual ramp.
And that gap, that's where we'll see the volatility hit first. Probably in regional electricity prices and soon after in frantic regulatory frameworks trying to catch up.
A pure structural tension. Okay, so if physical limits are one barrier to OS speed, another is psychology. That brings us to K-Speed China's dangerous silence.
The contrast here is so stark. On one hand, you have a very fast government OS. It's executing controlled financial easing, stabilization policies.
But on the other,
you have the ultra-low speed of recovery in consumer sentiment. Local finance, especially anything tied to housing, is just frozen.
and the key observation is what you call the dangerous silence.
The calcification band, yes. I mean, normally with this level of youth unemployment, anxiety, household debt, property market issues, you'd expect to see some visible social variability, some market panic.
But there's nothing. It's suppressed.
And you have to ask, how is it suppressed? This is not organic calm. This is active structural maintenance.
So the national OS, which is all about control and projecting this high-tech state image, is just not compatible with the local lifestyle OS.
Not at all. The local OS is dealing with real economic anxiety, a total lack of certainty about the future.
And that active suppression through surveillance, media controls, means the tension isn't being released. It's just building.
Which leaves the national OS with fewer and fewer real policy options for 2025 because the underlying psychological structure is hardening against any kind of change.
Fascinating. Let's move to KC, geopolitical hardening. We're looking at the Middle East, the Israel-Gaza conflict, the Red Sea instability.
The shear here is between the ultra-fast kinetic and diplomatic exchanges, the missile strikes, the emergency meetings, and the ultra-slow historical and religious layers that actually govern the long-term actions of everyone involved.
But the strangest signal is the silence from the financial OS.
It's completely counterintuitive. I mean, you have renewed major disruptions to global supply chains, ships are rerouting, insurance costs are spiking.
But the markets aren't really moving, not in a big way.
The financial OS seems to be just absorbing this friction silently. The conclusion, structurally, is that the Middle East membrane is hardening. The market has basically priced in a state of permanent, ongoing instability.
So the geopolitical shear is just accumulating under this weirdly calm financial surface.
Exactly. And the U.S. deterrence OS is a great example of incompatibility. The signals it sends are completely non-synchronous with the religious and ethnic OS layers driving actions on the ground. They're not even speaking the same language.
That hardening takes us to KSD, a different kind of friction, Japan's social OS paralysis.
This is a textbook example of shear between layers. You have fast, visible price increases inflation that everyone feels. That's the N layer.
And then you have the incredibly slow movement of wages and the corporate labor market.
Right. And the key compatibility error is between the Bank of Japan's policy OS, which is desperately trying to escape decades of deflation,
And the corporate wage setting OS, which is just stuck. It's structurally conservative, only comfortable with these tiny, gradual increases.
The systems are actively fighting each other.
And the result is what you're calling social OS paralysis.
It's a form of calcification. There's strong public dissatisfaction. The gradient is high, but it doesn't translate into political change or protest. The pain is just absorbed. The political structure doesn't move, and the system hardens.
And the worry is that when policy normalization finally comes in 2025 with interest rate changes,
It can't land smoothly. It will trigger severe social friction because all that tension has been suppressed for so long instead of being released gradually.
Okay, our final case, KCE loops back to physical limits. Supply chains.
The shear here is between the very fast fluctuation of demand for energy, LNG, oil, and the ultra-slow pace of investing in new infrastructure, particularly in Europe.
And in Europe, that compatibility error is really obvious.
It's striking, the decarbonization narrative OS. It's just fundamentally non-compatible with the physical reality of their current infrastructure OS.
And with the immediate energy needs of people and industry.
Right. And instead of a serious debate about new pipelines or long-term contracts, you get this this calcification, a kind of discussion stagnation.
So policy is stuck in an abstract story while the physical system lags behind, relying on expensive, short-term fixes.
Exactly. The global energy membrane is being stretched to the physical limits of its low-speed infrastructure. And that friction is being paid for with price volatility and risk, which right now is being absorbed by national budgets. But it's accumulating. It's becoming structural debt.
So if we pull all that together, the structural summary is, well, it's pretty compelling. The OS layer is accelerating, driven by digital and financial tech, and it's the dominant global force.
And the gap between the intent of that OS and the phenomenon of physical limits and human psychology is just getting wider everywhere.
We should be looking for what you call nonlinear gaps.
Yes, the pressure points. The places where the system is likely to break or snap rather than just bend. We have identified 3 key ones to watch.
Okay, number 1.
The gap between AI growth and power physics. This feels like the most immediate. The growth curve for AI is just not compatible with the physical capacity of electricity and water. Something has to give, and probably suddenly.
Right. Either the AI expansion slows dramatically or regional resource stability breaks.
Number 2, the gap between China's control and resident psychology, that silence band of economic anxiety, it's a huge reservoir of pressure. The breaking point could be anything, a local financial crisis, a sudden loss of faith in institutions, but it will be unpredictable.
And the third gap.
The gap between geopolitical tension and market reaction. Right now, the financial OS is acting like a shock absorber. It's just internalizing real physical threats.
We have to watch for the moment it decides it can't absorb anymore.
When that financial OS finally fires, the reaction won't be gradual. It will be a major nonlinear event.
So the forecast for the coming period.
The highest probability is that the world membrane's shear, that speed differential, is just going to strengthen. The fast systems are locked in. They're not slowing down.
Which means they're going to force the slow systems even closer to their breaking points.
That's right.
So since we know that acceleration is basically a fixed variable now, the most valuable thing for you, the listener, to observe is this. Track exactly which slow, calcified OS will be the first to fracture.
Is it going to be a power grid cracking under the load of a data center?
Or will it be the silence of public anxiety finally breaking in a major economy? Or a physical bottleneck in European energy infrastructure?
Observe the structure. Don't watch the headline. That's where you'll see the next wave of change begin.
Until next time, keep tracking the gradient.